Hey everybody, Anthony here, and this week we're thrilled to have Play to Z Games as a sponsor of this episode and to share with you their new game, Ascending Empires Zenith Edition. Ascending Empires is a 4X game that plays in just under 2 hours. You flick your ships across the galaxy, discover and explore new planets, build outposts, cities, research facilities, even starbases. All while your ships and troops compete to complete missions and claim alien relics that will establish your dominance over your opponents. With plenty of extra modules to switch up the experience, from new alien races with unique powers to immense, game-changing megastructures, and even good old-fashioned robot uprisings, Ascending Empire's new Zenith Edition is a unique galaxy-building experience. Use the code POD on their website, playtozgames.com, to receive 15% off your order. That's code POD on playtozgames.com.
Welcome to Board Gamers Anonymous, the podcast where everyone is welcome at the table, but of course, no one knows whose turn it is. This is Chris.
Hey, and this is Anthony.
And this is episode 519, March Gamer Madness, Part 1, Civilization Games. We'd like to thank all our Patreon backers for helping us unlock a brand new episode. Hey friends, we are back, and for this super special ultimate battle craziness, it's March Madness. But not just in basketball, but also in cardboard. So, Anthony and we got a cardboard matchup of bracket proportions for you.
Yep, we're doing it. We're doing this every year. This is how we roll. The March Gamer Madness, we pick a category, we build out the bracket, we get 64 games in that category or some adjacent categories, and we pit them against each other. So, round one, it's just round one, because we got 64 games, 32 matchups. We're going to run them all down. We're going to cut this list in half. Next week, we're going to be joined by special guest Geof Gambill, who joined us about a year and a half ago in our special Civilization Games episode. So famously of the Longview Podcast, he's going to hop in and help us narrow that last 32 down to one. But this week, you get the main crew. We're going to knock out these 64, and there's some cool stuff in here, and we've organized it in some interesting ways I think you'll enjoy.
Yeah, next week's the super special heavy guest. It's going to bring it down. But for this week, as you said, Anthony, it's us!
Yeah, we know our stuff.
We do.
We know what we're doing.
We're fans of Civilization games. We're big fans of Civilization games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, huge fans. Like, go back and listen to that episode with Geof. You'll hear, like, I actually took all my Civilization games off of the various shelves in my house.
Oh, man.
And put them onto one shelf.
And
I was like, hey, look at that. There's like 20 of these. This is the new Stefan Feld collection. I have all these games.
Sure.
But this has been my favorite genre of anything, going back to being like 9 years old when I was playing like Civ 2 on my PC in the living room. Like, it's great.
Oh, sure, of course. All of those games, even the RTSs where you're building up a little civilization.
Oh, yeah, Age of Empires?
Oh, my God. So great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Civilization games and tabletop gaming work so well together. And what's really been interesting about it through the decades, or the generations, so to speak, for this episode, is it really has evolved. And there's a lot of different takes about Civilization games. And each and every one of them is relatively unique and always fun to get to the table. And it just gets smarter and better throughout. And I think Civilization games, now you have your Civ 6 and Civ 7 and all the other kind of stuff that's out there. But I think tabletop gaming does a very good job of managing multiple generations and millennia and all of these different cultures and backgrounds and leaders in a wonderful way. I mean, it's such a grand undertaking, more of a grand undertaking than almost anything else out there in tabletop gaming.
Dude, it's still the holy grail to like build a Civ game
Yeah.
that takes less than 5 hours and still feels like a Civ game. It's really hard to do.
Sure.
People come along every few years, they're like, we did it, and people play it and they're like, no, you didn't. It failed. And so what we've done to kind of reflect that is we've broken down our list into 4 categories.
Okay.
So when we say Civ game, you're thinking historical civilization game.
I am thinking that.
That's what I was thinking. And honestly, to be fair, when I made this list, there's like 40 of those that are halfway decent. We almost could have just done that.
Sure.
There's so many, but we did narrow it down. And so we have historical as one quadrant.
Yes.
These are the classical, you go through all the different eras, starting in antiquity up to modern civilization games, right?
Human history.
Yeah, history, like going way back, and like broad history, and generally Western Europeanish history, but not always.
Sure.
Just because that's unfortunately how everything is, very Eurocentric.
It's where the games come from.
Yeah, exactly. So when you think civilization, like the video game, that type of theme, that's that category.
Sure.
We then have science fiction.
Ooh.
So civilizations in space.
In the future.
Again, and this was another category with like 30 or 40.
Yeah.
There's so many. Because honestly, a lot of sci-fi games are 4X games, and a lot of 4X games are Civ games.
Yes.
Not all, but a lot. Then we have fantasy games.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot fewer of these. This was actually a little more difficult to pull together because it's difficult, I think, to put this theme into a fantasy setting, because the whole point of a fantasy setting is that it's static. That's why people like fantasy. It's old and everything's kind of the same, right? It doesn't develop over time. So there are definitely good examples. We'll go through those. And then the 4th category is a fun one. We're calling it micro civ.
Mm-hmm.
So where the rest of these are macro, where we're looking at multiple civilizations fighting it out for resources over millennia in some cases. Micro civ is like narrowing it down to one civilization at one point in time, sometimes within one species.
Oh, okay.
Right. So we'll get into like there's some like animal species here. There's specific locations, specific historical periods, but like really narrowing it down into one tiny little segment and chunk.
Sure.
Whereas a game, like it's on the screen right now, Through the Ages, is all the chunks over many thousands of years.
Yeah, both are very good experiences throughout. It gives you a sense of civilization building. And as you said, trying to get that on a table in a tabletop period of time, very difficult, but very challenging. But also, as you mentioned, Anthony, the golden grail of all of this out there. So,
yeah,
we've got a lot of great games. So let's get to the first matchup.
Yeah, we're going to kick it off. Mm-hmm. Yep. So we have this wonderful tool here from Bracket Fights. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be able to see the matchup here, choose the matchup. If you're listening on audio right now, hit up YouTube or our Patreon, where you can also find the video. I'm going to upload it there.
There's video on this?
There's video, yeah.
I'm being videoed right now is what you're saying?
You could see the deer in the headlight look that Chris just gave.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Hey, our pictures are there, but they're it's mostly the screen. You're going to get to see
all right.
the game boxes themselves and the matchup and what's going up against what. So for those of you who maybe, if you're listening at some point or you're like have it on the background, you put the video up, then at least you can see what we're talking about in case we don't mention the name of the game at a steady cadence, which we try to.
We do.
So, in case you miss it.
Yeah. So it's a really cool bracket to take a look at, and you can follow along with us and predict what the future might be of that civilization game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's dive in. Our first matchup here, number 1 in the historical bracket versus number 16. We have Through the Ages, A New Story of Civilization versus The Flow of History. So we've got Vlaada Chvátil's epic Civ game. One of the biggest, one of the most effective at capturing what it feels like to play Civilization, the video game. Mm-hmm. Versus a much smaller, but still very fascinating, interesting game that does some really cool stuff.
Yeah, both very good games. I think the Flow of History would have a better chance moving on if it's not up against the granddaddy here a little bit. And I think Through the Ages new story of Civilization because they had an older story of Civilization. Does a really great job of incorporating all the new technologies and has continued to evolve.
Right.
So just for that alone, I think a modern version of a classic game that still keeps all its greatness. I'm voting for Through the Ages.
Yeah, I agree with you. Through the Ages is an amazing game, and that like you said, this is a tough matchup. The Flow of History is like more of almost an auction bidding style game, focused on the economics and building up the economy of your civilization,
Sure.
And how that pushes things forward. It's very interesting and fascinating from that perspective.
Yes.
Through the Ages tries to simulate all the stuff.
It does.
Right. And it gets almost all of it right.
Yeah.
It's a very long game. It's kind of difficult. It's almost impenetrable with like 4 players at the table, but it's just a perfect interpretation of that specific thing. So I agree.
All right. Through the Ages moves on to the next round.
All right. All right. So next up here, we have our number 8, Europa Universalis, going up against our number 9, which is Civilization: A New Dawn. So in this case, we have Europa Universalis. It's kind of in the middle. Like, it's not a micro because it's like a whole continent's history.
Yes.
But it's almost in a micro because it's really, purely Eurocentric. And it's over the course of like 500 to 1,000 years, not like everything. But it is legit like a sprawling, incredibly detailed, lengthy, super systemic take on like that kind of simulation game. It's based on a video game that is that.
Yes.
Versus Civilization: A New Dawn, which is the opposite of that. Like a super boiled down version of the Civilization formula, which I love, but it doesn't, at least without the expansion, it doesn't feel as much like a Civ game. And that's not even me picking a thing here. I'm just kind of like making the
sure. I remember playing that game.
Yeah, and it has the action mechanic with the cards in the slots that Arc Nova took and made famous. So that was my favorite part of the game. That we have now Arc Nova that does that as well. It doesn't really, it has like 2.5 of the X's, and a lot of it's pretty abstract, and it's not super asymmetrical. There are different civilizations, but they're not as asymmetrical. It's a very good, interesting Euro game, but when you call it a Civ game, it's a little tough.
Sure.
The expansion helps a lot with that, but that's a fantasy flight game for you.
All right. As you said, both good games, both different perspectives. I'm going to take this on a little bit of a tangent here. I think I'm going to go with Europa here, just because it has a lot more in the base box at the table.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, I feel like if you ask me what my favorite game was, Civilization: New Dawn is in my top 100. I love that game.
Agreed.
But when we're talking about a Civilization game that's representative of those systems and of the cool things you can do and of history, I just don't feel like a New Dawn really captures that. So I'm going to agree with you and go with Europa. I don't want to.
I mean, it literally has Civilization in the title.
Yeah, and I want to do that thing that drives you nuts every year where I'm like, no, I just like this game. And you're like, yeah, but it doesn't fit the theme. I'm like, no, I don't care.
It's got to fit the theme, man. Why are we here otherwise?
Yeah, no, I just, oops, sorry about that. I just like the game and I want it to win.
I hear you.
All right, so Europa Universalis
moves on to the next round.
Despite being difficult to say, moves on.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have number 5, Nations, going up against number 12, Antique 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Boogaloo. Yeah. So Antique 2, again, one of my favorite games. It's a Matt Gertz game. It's one of my favorites of his. It is also very kind of narrowed down to like a European-focused antiquity time frame. And it's pretty abstracted in terms of like what you're doing. There's no asymmetry. You're not actually building up a specific civ. You're just kind of going out and finding different resources, building them up, and trying to score points. Nations is a card-driven actual like civ game in the sense of like you have a specific civilization you're working with. It's asymmetrical. You can get leaders. You get different locations. You can find wonders and upgrade those. There are wars. There's famine. Like, it simulates all that stuff in an interesting way. It abstracts it down to some degree because it is all cards. But I think it just does a much more interesting job of exploring a civilization in the game.
Yeah, I've played both of these. These are both great games and do both explore quite well. I'm going to go with Nations here. I think it's just a fuller presentation of that kind of Civ feel.
Right. Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. That's an easy one for me. All right. Next up, we have Seven Wonders at number 4, which is absolutely a Civ game. Staying more in kind of the antiquity era. You're not like Seven Wonders, the time of ancient wonders. Going up against Civilization, the board game.
It's back!
Sid Meier's Civilization, I should say, because we have other Civilization, the board games coming up. Which is the, I think, 2013 or 2012 take on the Civilization board video game. And it is a lot more like the Civilization video game. The thing here with these two is they're both very good. They're both about the same age. They came out around the same time. I enjoy both of them. One of them is much longer, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
They both kind of need their expansions to really feel like full Civ games.
Sure. I'll give you that.
I'm almost thinking, like, which expansions are better? Because, like, Seven Wonders, you kind of need those leaders.
Yeah.
And then Civilization, the board game, you kind of need Fortune and Fame. Otherwise, the culture track is pointless.
Yes, 100%.
So, I'm going to go with Civilization, the board game, because I have really fun, nostalgic feels for that game. And every time I look at it on my shelf, I'm like, I want to play that. And it's like one of the first 5 board games I bought.
Aww.
I still have like the broken old copy that I got at Myriad with like the busted back.
Sure.
I do love Seven Wonders though.
Yeah, I mean, Seven Wonders. I also own the first and the second edition, and Seven Wonders, all the duel and all that other kind of stuff. I think Seven Wonders is a fairly complete game. As you mentioned, Leaders gives you more of the thematic feel, and then Cities gives you the interaction.
Right.
So, whereas I think Civilization, the Sid Meier version here, I think as you mentioned with the culture track and also the money is a bit of an issue too, as we experienced a long time ago. I'm going to go with Seven Wonders here.
All right. We have our first showdown.
Oh.
So every year we do this where I'm like, we have a die. And some people are like, do you really have a die? And I'm like, we do really have a die, but you can't see it. So, but those watching the video, here's the die.
It's a die.
There's a D20 on my desk.
Okay.
So evens or odds, my friend?
Evens.
Evens Seven Wonders, odds Civilization. It is a 9.
All right.
I guess you can't see that because the camera's at the wrong angle.
Why don't you have another screen for the camera for the die?
9, guys. There you go. All right, Civilization, the board game. Moving on. All righty. So, next up, we have on our matchups, Civilization, just Civilization. Francis Tresham's, I believe, 1980 classic.
Sure.
And Roll Through the Ages, which is Matt Leacock's pub-friendly roll and write, in which you are building up your civilization in the Bronze Age. This is about as weird of a matchup as you could have.
Yeah.
You have like the game they invented the genre.
Yes.
Like not just for the board games, but like for video games as well. Cited as a reference for Sid Meier. And then you have Roll Through the Ages, which is a great game.
Yes.
One of our favorite roll and writes. I don't know.
It's
tough.
Was it called it's rolling? You have those little pins you stick in the wood block.
Yeah. There's writing.
There's writing, right? You have to make the monuments on that too.
Yeah.
But it was.
I don't think they called it a roll and write at the time, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and it was still revolutionary at its time when it first came out, which was what, 15 years ago, 12 years ago,
probably. Yeah, it's pretty old.
Yeah, it was way back.
I say pretty old when the other game's 45 years old.
Yeah, both very good games. I can't see bumping Civilization without a real fight here.
Yeah, I know that's tough. Like, I have only played. I think I played this twice, and I think one of those might have been Advanced Civilization, or like not maybe. Like I played, was it Western Empires you could get, which is like half of Mega Civilization.
Sure.
So It's big, it's sprawling, it's long, it's complicated, it's got a lot of fiddly rules. Again, it was made in 1980.
Yeah.
But it's so influential, and it really does capture what it was like in that time, right? Like you start in 8000 BC and you work your way all the way up to the end of antiquity, basically. So yeah, you don't get into modern times, but you get almost 8,000 years of development in the game. It's such, like, for when it came out, for no other games having done something like this, it was just mind-blowing. Like, the fact that Francis Tresham invented the Civilization genre and then also the 18XX genre, like 2 years apart, is mind-blowing to me.
All right.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with that, I guess, is my long way of saying that.
All right, Civilization moves on to the next round.
All right. Okay, so I threw Mega Civilization on here as well, just because it's huge and it's funny. It's this, again, like, if you go to Board Game Geek, it shows this as a re-implementation of Civilization, but it's a re-implementation of that plus Advanced Civilization, and it came out 35 years later.
Yes.
And it's like 15 hours long, right? And it plays 18 players, right? And it's like $600.
Yeah.
So, that you can actually get the pieces of this now for a lot cheaper. So I can't remember who picked up the license for this. It was Capstone or somebody else, but you can buy Western and Eastern Empires.
Yes, they separated it.
Yeah, I have Western Empires downstairs. I never bought Eastern because I'm like, I can't get Western to the table. I'm certainly never going to get them together, both together. But you can buy them both separately, and then you can combine them, and that becomes Mega Civilization.
That's fantastic. Smart idea.
Yeah. So that's cool, and those are more accessible. They're like $100, which is a lot, but not crazy like this one. It's just, I just love that it exists. It's so audacious.
Sure. I remember when it came out, everybody, I think the industry itself was kind of shocked and amazed by the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there's that. It's cool, and why does it exist? Awesome. And then Empire's Age of Discovery, which is a reimplementation of Age of Empires 3, another Civilization video game from Glenn Drover. And this is like a worker placement game about the Age of Discovery, so colonization and colonialism and taking people's land and all that good stuff. So again, kind of micro-ish, but over the course of like 500 years.
Sure.
It did a lot of things for the first time when it first came out.
Yeah.
The new version came out in 2014? The one we're talking about here, but the original, I think, 2006. So this is a tough one because we got a game I've never played and probably never will, but I think it's amazing. I played half of it.
Sure.
I played the Western half versus a game that I kickstarted way back when Kickstarter was new, and I like and appreciate, but has grown to have some challenges with the theming, and also just the worker placement elements feel a little dated. So
yeah, it's got that. What would it be? Dominant species kind of sideboard where you place out your figures.
Yeah, and it's all programmed.
Yeah, you're programming.
So I'm gonna go with Mega Civilization, because then it'll be up against regular Civilization next week.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'll go with Mega Civilization too. I think it's audacious enough, and I think it met the challenge. It knew the assignment, and it met it.
Yes, yeah, and it wasn't Kickstarter, which is even crazier.
Yes.
They're like, we're making this, and we're spending our money.
They
on
did. It was big. I saw it.
So much money. All right, next up we have Imperium Horizons, which is the third release of the Imperium series from Nigel Buckle and David Turczi. It's a card game, tableau building card game about playing a civilization. Versus Mosaic, Story of Civilization, which is a big sprawling Euro game by Glenn Drover, who also did Age of Empires, which we just talked about. And it's much longer than it seems like it should be, but it does all the things, again, because you can't shorten this genre. I like both of these a lot. I own them both. Imperium I really fell in love with recently after playing Captain's Share. I've been playing my copy of Horizons a lot. The card elements make it so you can play so many different civs, and all the cards are so thematic to those civs. I'm going to go with Imperium.
I'm going to go with Imperium too. I liked Mosaic, but it left me wanting a lot for it too. The board was very abstracted.
It was, yeah. And there's expansions that apparently open some of that up. For such an expensive game with so much going on, it's tough to like recommend that and say like, oh, it's better if you pay an extra $100.
Does the expansions include a score tracker?
No. Oh, I forgot about that. That should be automatically disqualifying.
In their civilization, no one knows how to keep score.
That's so ridiculous. We played the game for like 4.5 hours. I'm like, okay, let's keep score. There's no track.
There's no track.
I'm going to go to board game. Nope, it doesn't exist. Okay, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yep.
All right, next up here, we have number 2 versus number 15, Clash of Cultures Monumental Edition. Specifically the Monumental Edition, because then you get the expansion with the specific civilizations that you're playing as.
And the elephants.
Yeah. And Imperial Settlers, one of my favorite games. It's a quirky little cartoony take on Civ Builder. Again, kind of a tableau card-based game. Not as complicated as Imperium, but similar vibe.
Yeah, both very good games. These are very different takes on the civilization genre. But they do take up multiple different civilizations and not just kind of a homogeneous kind of like this French civilization versus this slightly less French civilization to the left.
Right.
So, the one that has the most robust kind of cultural experience, the 4Xs and everything else that goes along with it, is Clash of Cultures for me.
Yeah, same. Imperial Settlers it's in my Hall of Fame, right? Like I retired it from my top 100 this year because it's that, like, I like it that much. But it doesn't feel like a Civ game. It feels more like a tableau builder, which has Civ theming to it.
Yeah, and then it boils civilizations down to like one specific aspect of it, like stereotype.
Yeah. It definitely walks that line in some of the civilizations for sure. To the point where they're like, now we're doing ones that didn't exist, like the Atlanteans. You're like, oh, okay, well, I guess you can't be accidentally racist about a
Watch them
civilization.
Watch them try, man. Watch them try.
All right. Clash of Cultures.
There you go.
Moving on. All right. So that is, folks, that is all of our historical section.
Okay.
So we'll run through these at the end, but those are your 8.
Nice.
So next up, we're going in the order it gives us. We're going through the micro Civ grouping.
Okay.
So again, these are smaller, more contained looks at civilization style theming. So first up, we have Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar. It's all about the progression of the Mayan civilization versus Ecos, First Continent, which is about kind of the ecological. Is that what I'm trying to say?
Ecological?
Yeah, ecological development of Earth, right? So you are actual forces of nature molding the planet.
Sure.
As players. So there are no actual human civilizations. It's more plants and animals.
They do a better job than we do.
Yeah, that's true. They don't destroy all of it.
No.
Took a meteor to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a cool matchup. I like anything where it's like, hey, it's a Civ game, but there's no actual people in it. That's a cool idea. Tzolk'in is such a clever, creative formula, though.
Yeah. It's hard because Ecos does give you that kind of expansive feel, even in that early time period. It's kind of a coin flip for me, but I guess Tzolk'in, just because I think it provides, and this might be unfair for Ecos a little bit, but the cultural aspect to the game,
right?
It's not just because they have culture in their game, human culture in their game, but because the board itself and so many of the different aspects are so well ingrained. They're so thematic.
It's thematic, mechanically thematic, right? Like, and that always makes a game better. And we're gonna get to some that are like that.
Yes,
but Ecos is a little more abstract.
It is.
All right, I agree. That's my way of saying I agree.
There you go, buddy.
All the way. All right, next up we have Bios Origins, which is a game about kind of the origins of the human race on Earth.
I've heard of them.
So there's a bunch of Bios games, but this one specifically is a civilization building game from Phil Eklund, John Manker. So like the development of humans from all these different subspecies into who we are now-ish. And that's up against the Wolves. And this is a fun one because the Wolves it's about wolves. You are playing as wolves, but you're building your own pack of wolves. You're trying to survive and be the most dominant pack in that territory. So like the civilizations are those different packs of wolves.
Yes.
So it's got area majority elements. It's got some take that elements. You're building up territory, trying to control the map. It's kind of a fascinating. I mean, at its core, it's just like it's an area control game with some take that elements, but thematically, what you're doing is a micro-civ.
Yes, 100%.
So I find that one the most fascinating, honestly, having played both of these, to some degree. Bios Origins, like any Phil Eklund game, is long, it's complicated, it does a lot of very interesting things mechanically,
Sure.
but you really have to dig into it a bunch to kind of pull those out.
Yes.
The wolves, the mechanics make you feel like you're being a wolf, right? like take that, get out of my space. So that's fun.
Yeah, I think just by the same token, what we talk about Zolkin, where the culture plays an additional level to the civilization building, I think that the same can be said, as you mentioned, with wolves. I think the idea of having those different packs, how they kind of evolve, how they expand their territory, they do the 4X as well.
Yeah.
Over multiple generations. So I'm going to go with the wolves here.
All right. We are on the same page.
There you go, buddy.
We keep being on the same page. All right. Next up, we have Ryan Swisher and Tim Eisner's March of the Ants, building up an ant civilization. So the photo here, I think, is the original, but there is a second edition that they call the Evolved Edition, which is generally agreed upon to be the best version of the game.
Nice.
And then we have Stefan Riesthause's Gentis, which is a game that could have gone in the historical section, but it's a little abstracted.
It is.
So it's not really about specific civilizations so much as the concept of civilization.
Yes.
And so your tribes, it's kind of prehistoric in focus. And the main focus here in the game is like the passage of time. And you spend that time as a resource to kind of move through and develop your family tree effectively. It's a brilliant game. I love it. But it's kind of abstract for
it is,
the traditional genre.
Yeah, both very good games. Both, like you said, the microcosms of their evolutionary kind of development in that specific period. I think the Gentes was one of those games where like loving Civ games and saw that come out on crowdfunding and was like, oh, this looks incredibly boring and super abstract and I have no interest in this. And then luckily I got a chance to play it. And I do think the time aspect is something that plays such a big part in the civilization games. But I think here, and maybe only here, do you really play with that mechanic.
Right.
And I think that was something that was really, it stuck with me even after the game. So I'm going to go with Gentes.
Yeah, I like Gentes a lot. I think it's a really smart game that does a lot of very interesting things with, like you said, those core underlying mechanics of what it means to be a civilization. But ants are cool, man.
They are.
Like, you ever seen like an ant colony?
Crazy.
Like, how does that work? I don't get it. So I'm going with March of the Ants because a 4X game with ants, it just feels like a perfect formula. And the second edition, which I believe just came out or is coming out, where you build out this kind of sprawling map around your tunnel, just a cool idea.
I mean, they know there's civilization building, and there's more ants than there are people out there. So
that's true. All right, evens or odds for Gentes?
I'll take odds this time.
Odds it is, and we have 18.
All right, the March of the Ants moves on to the next round. I am not rolling this episode.
Yeah. Well, I'm rolling the dice, so you never know. All right, next up, we have our number 4 up against our number 13, Dominant Species, the original. And the reason we picked the original we put in here is because you do have like these distinct animal species from different biomes and parts of the land vying for territory and survival. Versus Inventions, Evolution of Ideas, which is Vital Lacerda's look at specifically one of those X's.
Yes.
The kind of ideas and development of ideas throughout a civilization. So we've got animals trying to kill each other or people trying to invent stuff.
I mean, the Inventions concept and how there's different parts to inventing something and to spreading amongst different people, different continents, different the world map that they kind of put out there is very inventive.
Mhm.
The, although the actual inventions that you're inventing, while they do have some sort of a thematic element, like certain things do play off other ones, you could also be a civilization that doesn't have computers but has fire, and like
Yeah.
so, and it's really odd. Dominant species, what I like, and would only be something that you would know if you actually play the game, is you are playing different species. You're playing a type, but you have all these different evolving species that going throughout the landmass,
Yeah.
and they grow and they change. They eat different foods. They live in different locations. They modify with the ice that comes in, the ice age that kind of pulls in. They conflict. They support. So yeah, dominant species, certainly evolution.
I think so too. Yeah, I like when making this list. Even I was like, oh, that's an interesting one. That'll be fun to talk
Yeah,
about because it is a Civ game when you think about
it
what it's
is.
doing. And people think, oh, it's area control and your animals. Like you are, but they're building up their own biome and they're building, evolving to survive, and that's what humans have done through civilization.
Yeah, they do all the X's, and they do it in a very inventive way.
All right, so there you go, dominant species. Moving on.
There you go.
All right, next up, well, so we had 3 animal wins in a row there.
There you go.
Yay, animals!
Yay.
No animal wins this time because we've got Manhattan Project Energy Empire, and we've got the old cover here because this is the one I own.
Okay.
Up against Terraforming Mars.
Mm.
So, Energy Empire about building up the energy infrastructure of your civilization and what that looks like over time.
Yes.
And Terraforming Mars, literally about building a planet for people to live on.
It's true.
Quite literally physically building the civilization, even if you're not running the civilization.
Yeah, an Energy Empire you play as a nation.
Yeah,
and that nation has a special ability or abilities. And then Terraforming Mars, you're playing as a corporation.
Right.
So it's not a nation, but these days it might as well be.
Yeah. Not to get political, but
but it might as well be because I think that's. But again, it is that that race for control. Again,
Yep.
all the 4X's that come along with it, and both of them are evolving their technology in order to be able to live on that particular land. Whether it's Terraforming Mars, where they're actually changing the land, or Energy Empire, where they're changing the land, typically unintentionally because they're using toxic energy, and they're trying to evolve away from that or out of that. So, two really great games, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting matchup because I think they both do it in different ways, in interesting ways. I'd be happy with either of them. I think the one that I find most fascinating for this particular conversation is Energy Empire.
Sure.
Because it is closer to our lived experience of, there is a nation, they are developing their energy infrastructure, and they're determining how to do that in a way that either supports or puts their people in danger or both. And they have to deal with the events that come through that. So, Terraforming Mars I like the idea of you're not running a Civ, you're just physically building it, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I'm leaning towards Energy Empire.
Yeah, and I think for Energy Empire too, because it's my pick, I think one of the interesting aspects of it, just like Terraforming Mars, is the technology is where the evolution comes from. So the Energy Empire certainly is something that really fits very well.
Awesome. All right. Moving on, we have a nice weird matchup here for you. We have the Great Zimbabwe, which is similar to Zolkin, looking at a very specific time and place and a civilization that existed. I don't remember exactly what the time frame is, but it is an ancient civilization in Africa. And it's an economic game where you're building up your economic abilities by buying different technologies. You build different craftsmen, you gather different resources. Mechanically, the game is very interesting. It doesn't really have anything to do with the Civ game. It's just, the different things you take on, whether it's what you create or what you can create or what gods you're worshiping, will determine what your victory point condition is, which I love. And then it's a race to get there. Whoever gets to their condition first is the winner. It's somewhat abstracted. It's got that classic splatter ugly map problem, but Just a very clever, interesting take on an economic Euro,
Mm-hmm.
and taking place in a civilization that just isn't represented in games very much, if at all. So I always find that fascinating. Rebirth is a new game from Reiner Knizia about people going out basically after the apocalypse, and finding various bits of once beautiful land and buildings and rebuilding them. So another like building a civilization type of game.
Sure.
It's Knizia, so it's abstract.
Oh yeah.
But it's pretty.
Yeah.
And thematically, you are physically building out those old lands.
Yes.
So for me, it's Great Zimbabwe. I love the representation of something that isn't in Western Europe, even if the game itself isn't about necessarily. I mean, it has a lot of elements of that civilization, but it's
Sure.
not about specifically running that civilization so much as the economics of it. But yeah, and I also like the game a lot. So
I don't like the game a lot, but I do think it is a better representation of the civilization it's trying to represent.
okay, bam,
There you go, buddy.
we click it. All right, next up we have On Mars.
Mm-hmm.
So not quite building Mars for people as Terraforming Mars did, but like the precursor to building Mars for people. And then Mycelia. Mushrooms. Which, I think I grabbed the wrong Mycelia cover.
I think you did. It's cuter though.
Why are there two that came out within a year of each other?
It's very cute though.
Yeah. Well, okay, so imagine a greenish cover with two ugly mushrooms on it.
It's true.
That's the one I was thinking of. But it's a game where you're growing a mushroom kingdom and they're fighting for survival.
That's fine.
Right?
It's not on video anyway.
Yeah, no, you can't tell. It's look, cute little mushrooms now pretending they're fighting each other to the death.
Or they're working together to create a vast network.
Exactly.
Or millennial,
Yeah.
They've been around longer than us, and they'll probably be here after. They have their own horror movie and horror video games, so sure, why not?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Mycelia is a cool. There's so many mushroom games that came out at the same time, obviously, since I grabbed the wrong cover. And they all have the same basic idea, right? Like mushroom, like fungi grow in this big network.
Yes.
And they have to work together with the things that they're growing from.
Yes.
And it communicates over vast space. Like it is a big sprawling civilization underground and then sometimes above ground. I love On Mars. It doesn't feel like as much of a Civ game as like Terraforming Mars did.
Sure.
I think if this was Terraforming Mars versus Mycelia, I would go with Terraforming Mars. But I think our cute little mushroom friends get my pick.
Yeah, I'll go with that too. I think the extraordinary nature and evolution and micro civilization that they construct is fascinating.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next up, last pick here, we have number 2 from our list is Antiquity, which is a game about antiquity, obviously, but it is so abstracted because it is a splatter game that it doesn't really feel like it until you get to some of the things that you're actually doing, right? You're building up over time and like the impact you have on the land. So where you're living is meant to be like Italy, Middle Ages ish, maybe before that. Not really clear. But I always really appreciated like the pollution mechanics here. It's something to take into consideration, like we talked about with like Energy Empire. Like, where are you going to bury the bodies, and when you produce stuff and cut down the forests, what happens to your land, and how are you going to break up? You have all these little polyominoes, but some of them are going to take up space in ways that you wouldn't like.
Yes.
Such a weird game.
It is.
It's good. And then you got Earth, which is just about building out Earth, right? You're stacking up all these different things, build your big tableau. It's Race for the Galaxy, but with Earth. So
yeah, all the different natural growth that comes over those generations, how that kind of builds up to be its own natural civilization.
Right. So I don't know. This is a weird one. I'm not really sure which one I would go with here.
Well, I'm going to go with Antiquity for 2 reasons. Okay. One, it is my favorite splatter, which is odd. But also 2, because I think there's only one other game. I think when I'm thinking of Village, Antiquity has that kind of mechanic, as you mentioned, where not only are you building up your civilization amongst other city states, but you're building it up over generations to the point where you have to burying your people is a very big part of the game mechanic,
Right.
and you do feel like time is passing because of that.
Right.
And that's a really interesting dynamic, like we talked with Gentes earlier, that typically you don't think about when you play a lot of civilization games, that there is, like, oh, we still have people, we still have people, we still have people. Like, does anyone pass away to the next generation? Like, actually turns out here. So
All right, you talked me into it. I kind of forget about that time element,
yeah,
and I really liked that argument for Gentes, even though I liked the ants more.
sure.
So yeah, Antiquity for me too.
All right, Antiquity moves on, next round.
All right. All right. So, it's trying to make us do that. Can't do that.
Not until Geof
We
gets
can't
here.
jump to next week. What are you
Geof
doing?
will yell at us.
Uh-oh. I'm breaking everything.
Technical difficulties, people. Don't worry. This is not on video. This is just audio. You have no idea what's happening. It's all fine. It's all proceeding normally. It's not broke whatsoever.
No.
Not even a little bit.
No, it's not. All right. So we're gonna continue and pretend that we're having this conversation here. Twilight Imperium,
yes,
versus It's a Wonderful World, and just ignore the fact that I accidentally already picked the winner.
That's okay, because I'll accidentally already pick Twilight Imperium because
this is such an easy one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It is a wonderful world, but not right now.
No, yeah. We'll have plenty of time to talk about TI4 next week and probably the following. Well, no,
it's like TI3, but better by one.
And there's civilizations, and they're in space.
Space civilizations, man.
Heck yeah, love it.
Yeah, 4X, buddy.
It's good. All right,
yeah,
so
sure.
Yeah, really?
No, it's good.
It's good. All right, next matchup here, High Frontier for All.
I
believe that's the full name. Versus Empires of the Void 2.
Ooh.
So, High Frontier for All, again, it falls. I think this is a Phil Eklund joint.
Mm-hmm.
So it is about as sprawling and messy as they get.
Yes.
Just bits and bits and bits and bits everywhere. And it's just like the 4th edition of this game, I think, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been building and developing this game forever.
Yes.
And so it takes like 6 hours to play, and it has all that. Like, I'm making it sound bad. It's just a really heavy game.
Yeah,
like,
it's fine.
It's a brilliant game, but it's very heavy. And then we have up against that Empires of the Void 2, which is Ryan Lockett's big space 4X game.
Yes.
Which develops and builds on everything Empires of the Void did, 10X as well. So 2 really big, heavy space development games. One is more sci-fi.
Yes.
It's interesting discussion.
Both very good games. Empires of the Void 2, I remember playing that at a convention, and the person teaching was befuddled, and it took almost twice as long to play. And I remember really enjoying it despite all of that, and having my characters kind of grow and expand throughout the universe, and kind of built up new civilizations on other planets. And then I met Ryan Lockett at a convention, and I was like, hey, I played your game, but I probably didn't play it right, but I really enjoyed it. I want to play it again because I really like that kind of building situation space. And I enjoy a lot of his games. This is one of my favorites of his. So, Empires of the Void 2 is my vote.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's interesting as well. Like, I think I agree, just because I think it's easier to get to the table and it's not quite as sprawling. And like, part of what makes High Frontier for All so good is that you just kind of invest in it time-wise. Like, it even has game rules where you can play through as like stage 4 of the BIOS series.
Yeah.
So you go from like BIOS, I think Origins, and then through Megafauna, and then through the people development or PAX, whatever it is, all the way up through this. So it's just like the full evolution of life on Earth and off of Earth. That's cool. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
So I don't know. Empires of the Void is a very interesting game, though. So I will go with you on that.
All right. Empires of the Void, number 2. Who's on next round?
All right. Next up, we have Star Trek Ascendancy,
Mm-hmm.
which is an interesting spin for Civ game
Mm-hmm.
because it is a 4X game where you have factions vying for resources and
Yeah.
to build out. But it has all the elements of a good Civ game as well, too. Like each of these different civilizations has a different idea of what it means to be successful
Yes.
at what they're doing, and you are each asymmetrically trying to do that thing,
Yeah.
whether it's combat or exploration and discovery.
Yeah, and each planet, there's different modules on each planet, so you are building up civilization and mining and resources there too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. So I think it does stuff that you don't necessarily see in other ones, just because you have all the recognition that comes in those different factions.
Yes,
Like,
and
we know what the Federation's about,
yeah,
right?
and you don't always have to conquer. There's a lot of cultural kind of maneuvering and soft power that goes on.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So next up here against that, we have Ginkopolis.
Ooh,
So this is the 23rd century, and people are building cities that are meant to be symbiotic with nature, which is cool. It's a
yeah.
cool theme. And so this is a future where humans have used up everything. so now we're trying to survive by not continuing to destroy nature.
Mm.
So I think the game is very optimistic about how long that will take. 2212, okay. And so you're laying out these different tiles, and the game itself is somewhat abstract,
Yeah,
but it's very good.
it's a very
It's a
good
great
game.
game. I don't know that I feel that theme so much. Every time I read it, I'm like, oh, that's right. That's what this game is about. That's a cool theme,
It
but
is.
you don't really feel it.
Nah. Yeah, I'm gonna go.
So I'm gonna.
I'm gonna go Star Trek Ascendancy.
Okay, yeah, you beat me to
Yeah,
it.
sorry.
I agree. Yeah, that's kind of an easy one. All right, next up we have Roll for the Galaxy, which when I was building this, I'm like, I have 3 choices here. I'm only going to put one in: Race for the Galaxy, Roll for the Galaxy, or New Frontiers. So
Sure.
card game, dice game, board game. They're all the same idea. You're building out your own little tableau of a civilization within this galaxy, and you're trying to generate resources effectively. But it's space development tableau builder, right? Revive is a bit of an interesting one in that it is similar to we talked about. Was it Rebirth, like post-apocalypse and trying to rebuild mankind? This is even further. This is like 5,000 years in the future. Like everything's wiped out, and you are trying to lead your individual tribe civilization out and build up again, right? And unlike the Knizia game, I feel like this does a much more interesting job of guiding you through that thematically, through the different cards that you have, which have like these different robots and different people, and some people that don't look like people anymore. And then there's a campaign where you kind of go through and you face different things and different challenges. It has like a story mode that goes through the game. So I find this game really interesting. I know it's been very popular in like the solo play crowd, but for a game that kind of came out without a lot of fanfare, it's like eked its way in the top 100 now. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that because I thought it was like a hidden gem, and apparently no, a lot of people like this game. So yeah, Revive I think is a very cool idea for a Civ game where it's just like, okay, there was a civilization, it's super dead and frozen now.
Yeah.
Let's go out and dig for all the stuff they left behind and build a new one.
Interesting. Yeah, both great games. Roll for the Galaxy is one of my favorite games. That's in my top 100. And building up your planetary system and launching ships and resources does make you feel like there's an economic system to this civilization building. But I'm going to go with Revive here. I think you kind of sold me on that.
All right, cool. I thought we were going to have to roll the dice. I like Revive. All right, next up we have Underwater Cities. You're building up a network of underwater cities, your own little personal aquatic civilization.
Sure.
Which is 100% the theme of the game. Up against Beyond the Sun, which is a game about expanding and building out a civilization in space. And there's like a little tiny itty bitty bit of combat off in the corner.
Yeah.
But mostly it's technology development.
Yes.
It's a tech tree game.
Tech Tree, the game.
The game, yes, basically, yeah. And like the expansion has kind of an interesting, like there's like an opponent that comes in, like an outside force, like an alien force you have to go up against. And it's interesting, but the core of the game really is just those tech cards that you get,
Sure,
which are cool. They're fun. They break the game in fun ways. The problem I think you and I have both voiced with this game is it just start to feel a little samey after
Yeah.
a few plays. You're going down the same track, you're seeing the same tech.
Yeah, and they also came out or reinvented the game. So Beyond the Horizon actually has more of a Civ kind of setup
Right.
for it
That's
too.
it's a straight Civ
Yeah,
game,
and that just came out recently too. But Beyond the Stars is kind of like the mainstay, the classic version.
Right. I like this game a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I still have my copy. I wish you could play the solo mode with the expansion. It's so annoying you can't.
It's so weird that they did that.
I don't like it. But Underwater Cities, all the arguments I made about Terraforming Mars, where like you're actually building the civilization,
Yes.
maybe not running it, but building it. I like that.
Yeah, over multiple generations. So Underwater Cities for me as well.
Cool. All right, next up we have Eclipse: Second Dawn for the Galaxy, which is, as you'd imagine, you are a faction, you are developing. It's 4X in space.
Yeah.
Like we've done this before. Doesn't mean it's bad, but we've talked about this. Up against Boone Lake, which is a similar theme to Revive and a couple of the other games we talked about, where it is this area that's long forgotten by people, and you're going in there and trying to find resources and use them to build up your own group and settlement. So I didn't realize how many of these games there were.
Yes.
Like post-apocalyptic rebuilding society games that are kind of optimistic despite
oh no.
I know. It was just like, oh, you're gonna do fun stuff, and I'm like, isn't this like after the apocalypse? Like, yeah, but it's fun. It's like, okay,
Fun.
Yeah, so it's not Maracaibo, but it kind of has a similar mechanic. Like you're going down the river, and then you go back up the river, and you go down the river.
Yeah, it's got that cattle punk kind of power to it.
Right? Yeah, there we go. That's the word I'm looking for. And you are growing. Yeah, it's a lot of cows.
A lot of cows. Who knew?
Alexander Pfister is obsessed with cows. I don't know.
100%.
I think that game's pretty cool. I think I enjoy Revive a lot more. If I'm gonna go with like post-apocalyptic rebuilding society as a theme. And Eclipse is just such a good game.
Yes.
So
I'm gonna go with Eclipse here just because it does give you the more robust experience of expanding, building, and developing your technology, your tech tree. More than the cattle punk.
Boone Lake's it's more abstract.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's a Pfister game. All of his games are kind of abstract with good mechanics, and the theme is like whatever.
Sure.
So all right, next up here, two more matchups in the sci-fi bracket. We have Andromeda's Edge, which is one of the more involved sci-fi worker placement games you can play.
Yes.
Versus Apiary, and I had fun putting this on the list because I was like, wait, is this? Yeah, totally. You're building up a bee civilization in space.
Yeah, space bees. That's a thing.
It's literally about hyper-intelligent bees going to space and building a civilization because the humans are gone and they can go out and do as they please. So I think it's very cool. The game is actually surprisingly good.
Yeah.
Considering how silly the theme is. It's one of the more interesting worker placement games I've played in the last few years. And yeah.
I, for one, welcome our hyper-intelligent bee masters.
Please, we need more bees.
I'm telling you.
They do better than we're doing. Andromeda's Edge, though, I don't know. It's tough. Like, I don't know how many 4Xe space games I need on the list necessarily. It's a fantastic game. I don't know that it feels to me like I'm building a Civ. I'm building a little tableau where I trigger a bunch of cool abilities. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's not as abstracted as most of the games out there.
Sure.
You do have the physical pieces of the civilization that are getting built up. You do have the technology. You do have the leaders. You do have the ships. You do have how they're built off on as the game goes on. So both of them do a very good job as far as that's concerned.
Right.
I'm gonna go to Andromeda's Edge here.
All right. I'm going Space Bees.
Okay.
Evens or odds, my friend?
Odds.
Odds for Andromeda. It's 17.
All right.
You want to roll, my friend.
Woohoo!
Just for anybody out there who's like, he's cheating. I'm like, I'm not.
No, that's fine. We're all good.
All right, we got one more matchup here. It is Gaia Project,
Mm-hmm.
which is Terra Mystica in space, and a lot more focus on technology in
Sure.
that tree, building that up. And then we have Alien Frontiers,
Ooh.
kind of a classic worker placement game,
Yeah.
which you are going out and exploring the galaxy.
Both space, both growth on those planets. I think Gaia is a little more expansive. I think
Yep.
Alien Frontiers, you just have that one main planet unless you bring in all the expansions. And there's a lot of little mini expansions
Right.
for that. I like Alien Frontiers better, but I think Gaia Project is the better Civ game.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I we'll talk about Terra Mystica in like 2 seconds, but they're both Civ games, and I think this one's even a little bit more of a Civ game because it really focuses on the tech and like how it helps you expand.
All right.
All right, folks, there's our sci-fi. Let's get to fantasy. It's our last little chunk here.
Mm-hmm.
I just mentioned it. Here it is.
There you go.
Number 1, Terra Mystica.
Sure.
Now, Terra Mystica, just like Gaia Project, is a game about running a civilization, building it out, and trying to have the most effectively influence and growth within the tiny little space. Much smaller scope and scale, but a lot, still a lot going on. Up against Battle Mist. Now, Battle Mist is like one of the first games Christian Peterson made for Fantasy Flight after Twilight Imperium 1.
Sure.
And it's the precursor to Rune Wars, which we will talk about later. So you are playing as these different like fantasy things and trying to go out and build up your space. It's got a lot of similarities like Catan. It's got some similarities to Twilight Imperium. It's apparently not terribly good, but I have had a chance to see it and kind of observe the various rounds. It's not a game that's like easy to find anymore.
Sure.
But it's kind of a fun one to throw on the list.
Yeah, I like to when to Civilization games, ideally, not always, but ideally I like to have the civilization start off as a unique civilization. So even Andromeda's Edge, which is mostly an abstract worker placement game, does have its own civilizations, and Terra Mystica does have its own civilizations with its own benefits and its own building style. So I'm gonna go Terra Mystica.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I like Battle Mist is a really cool, interesting thing that exists as an artifact of gaming history.
Sure.
I don't think the game itself is probably very good.
Gotcha.
Just it's 30 years old. Next up, we have number 8, Everdell. And you're like, Everdell Fantasy? I'm like, yeah, it's little talking animals.
I know, the critters. They're critters, baby.
Yeah, little tiny talking animals running around building their village. Versus number 9, Dwellings of Eldervale.
Well, you guys send your peasants and your builders out there, and then they wear a little bit of a hat, and they turn into a building.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you got the big fancy version, you get monsters that are making sounds on the table.
Oh, man. Love the monster sounds.
I love this game, but I've only ever played it once because they made like 12 copies and refused to make more.
I know.
So, it's tough. Like we put Andromeda's Edge in there, which I agree with. Everdell is such a cute little fun experience where you're building up this like village almost.
Yes.
But it's almost like a day in the life, like a cozy game versus like a Civ game. So I don't know. I'm gonna go with Dwellings of Eldervale.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that too, because I do think you are building a civilization up, you're building towns up.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with monsters over time for that fantasy.
Right.
And characters die. They have to be brought back. So
yeah. That's right. I forgot about that mechanic. Yeah. That's interesting. All right. Next up, we have Northgard Uncharted Lands. This is a 4X game. At first glance, you're like, oh, it's a Viking game. But it really takes place within like this universe. It's like based on a video game, Northgard, in which the Norse myths are real, right? So you're dealing with the different gods and stuff.
Yes.
That come with that as you build up your little clan and fight for dominance there. And then we have Hyperborea, which is an interesting take on this kind of spin on like the bag building mechanic, like early on, like back in 2012, 2013. And so I feel like you have more experience with this one than I do, right?
Yeah, I own this game, and it certainly has that kind of growth of the civilizations out from the particular player side.
Right.
So it fits that kind of. I mean, more people are probably familiar with Orleans with that
Yep.
bag building element to it, but it is growing. Your group of people and how they kind of go out and conquer lands and such.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's an interesting game. I remember playing it a couple times back when it was relatively new, and I was like, "This is fun and interesting."
Yeah.
Um, Northgard is just by all accounts, and my experience with it is limited, but it's a little bit shorter, a little more direct, and it just does cool things with the overlap here. So,
Nice.
um, yeah, I'll let you go ahead and pick first.
I it's a hard one. Both kind of bring it down to kind of a small level, which is fun. I'm gonna go with Hyperborea, just because I think that you have more control over your civilization building, the bag building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, nice. It's tough. Like I'm trying to think, like which one gives me more of a feel of a Civ game.
Mm,
They both do a little bit, but they could different
yes.
ways. I, hmm,
You can leave it up to the roll.
I think I will.
There you go.
I like the more focused, contained approach of Northgard, but evens or odds?
Evens.
Evens. 11.
Ooh, there you go.
All right, so Northgard.
Moves on to the next round.
All right. All right, next up we got some mythology
Ooh, there you go.
games. Cyclades coming here at number 4.
Bangers, baby.
Going up against number 13, Deus.
Yeah.
So
The gods,
Cyclades,
man. The gods are everywhere.
yeah, we got both sides of the gods here. So Cyclades is like, the big dudes on a map, monster type thing. New version coming out, like very soon.
Yes.
Keep getting emails from Hachette Games. Like, it's coming. And then Deus, I remember playing this with you.
Yes.
I remember Daniel and I both got this for you.
Yeah, I have
separately.
I have the giant. Still have it, and the giant map too.
Yeah. And it's just a lot of fun. Like you're building out this different space, and the gods are kind of influencing how you build that and expand. It's just a very clever spin on it, and just haven't really seen it come back, which I found surprising because it felt unique.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of those games, kind of like Abyss, where you play out the characters to benefit your own kind of civilization, and then eventually they have to ascend, and then
Right.
you lose that, but you gain victory points. Cyclades is a little more straightforward because you are building metropolises throughout the game, or metropoli maybe. So you're building.
Yeah, let's go with that.
You're building harbors. You're building different places to worship. Economy is essential, even though there are gods and monsters in play. It really does come down to the economy in that game because it's a lot of bidding. So I'm going to go with Cyclades.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that.
Mhm.
Not only because I trust the person who owns both of these.
Yes.
But like, if you ask me, like, which of these do you want to play right now? I'm like, I kind of really want to play that. Like, I remember famously, I didn't like Cyclades versus like Kemet.
Yeah.
But Kemet's like one of my favorite games of all time.
Sure.
It doesn't mean I dislike. I'm not Daniel here. Like, Cyclades needs to burn in a fire. And that auction mechanic is so cool.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we have Civolution, which you had to remind me was fantasy.
Yes.
Because I was trying to find a place for it in historical, and you're like, that's not a historical game. Oh, yeah, that's right. You're like a god building a civilization.
Yeah.
And also it's super abstracted. Like there's no actual real world stuff.
Sci-fi fantasy kind of weird.
Yeah.
Weirdness is happening.
And then you've got Monumental, which is a game in which you are building your own civilization based on like this tableau of cards that you've built up.
Yes.
And it has a bunch of gods, demigods, mythical characters that come in the form of miniatures and wreak havoc.
Yeah, if you buy the miniatures version, there
right,
and there's also real civilizations in that game before it went off the rails. Like,
yeah, it's one of those games like I put in the historical category until I did more research. I'm like, more fantasy.
Yeah, it certainly fits with the Cyclades kind of thing, like civilizations, but gods and pantheons and stuff like that too. So,
right. Yeah, so interesting matchup here. I famously didn't love Civolution. I think as a Civ game, it's doing some interesting things though, because keep coming back to this, but you are building the civilization.
Yes.
Which I think is a cool idea. Monumental, it already exists. You're more running it.
Yes.
And it is a little abstracted because it really wants you to move towards getting those monsters out there.
You got that grid of cards that you're playing with.
Yeah. So despite it being, not my favorite game of last year. I will vote here for Civolution.
I'm going to vote for Monumental. I think
Okay.
the multitude of different civilizations and how they kind of utilize the Pantheon, I think, is really smart. I think it's a good
Right.
mechanic to it.
Great. All right. Odds or evens?
What odds here?
Odds for Monumental. It's 11 again.
Woohoo!
The third time I've rolled 11. Is this die loaded?
It's not loaded very well.
I know. All right, Monumental. Moving on. All right, next up we have Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea up against Might and Magic.
Oh, okay.
Heroes. So Might and Magic Heroes came out back in 2012. This is not the new Heroes of Might and Magic that came out recently from GameFound.
Sure.
This is going back a little bit further. It's still based on the video game, but you are playing as, you start out with like a hero, an army, and a city, and you're trying to build that up, recruit new characters, get new resources to actually increase your production, basically build up a civilization and be able to function in this fantasy world. Whereas in Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea, I always get that one mixed up. You're doing all the things. It's a sprawling 4X fantasy game, of which there are not very many. So it stands out because you walk by it at the table, you're like, yep, that's big old map, and you got armies, and you're building up resources, and you're going out and you're trying to generate more. It really feels like an epic battle between these different fantasy races: orcs, humans, dwarves, elves, all that good stuff. So it's I don't know. This is an easy one for me. Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea is one of those like big sprawling games that I always wanted to get. Which is like, I don't have the table or the group for it. I never picked it up, but
I played it.
It looks cool.
It's that kind of promise of an RTS on the tabletop, and it's massive. It's got a lot of pieces to it and a lot of expansions. And it was one of the first crowdfunding games where it was just a massive amount of money for it.
Right.
Because you were building a lot of ships and little flying objects and things like that. But it certainly does feel like, gives you that 4X experience and that civilization building based upon your unique faction. So I'm going to go with that.
All right. I agree.
All right. There you go.
All right. We got two more matchups here, and I think 3 of these games are in your top 100, so this should be fun.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
These are, I'm sure they're my top 50, so.
Yeah, these are Chris games through and through. Like, I like all these, but they're not like, these aren't on my list. All right, so first up, we got Mare Nostrum Empires versus Rune Wars.
Oh, no.
Game. Yeah. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't. So, yeah, I'll let you talk about Mare Nostrum.
Mare Nostrum's a really interesting game because you're dealing with the Mediterranean. You're dealing with different factions that are building up their own particular civilization. What really makes this game stand out is there's a multitude of different win conditions. Now, you've seen that in some of the like the legitimate civilization games, where it's like, it could be economic, it could be conquering, dominance, but this also, you have your pantheon of gods and your heroes that come into play. And there's a really interesting trade mechanic with this game, which is fun because even during all those times, you have to trade with each other. Because if you didn't trade with each other and use tariffs, that would be ridiculous and just bring your civilization down. So don't do that. Now, Rune Wars is fantasy, command and colors kind of system on the board. And you have your different factions, and they have to control certain areas and towns. And they got to build up, and each of those factions have different allies that come into play. And it's a very glorious 2-player battling game about which civilization will conquer the other. So 2 great games are out there.
Yeah, really fantastic. For me, I think those are both fantastic. I'm going to go with Rune Wars because there just aren't that many fantasy games that do this. There's a bunch of sci-fi games, but there really are not that many fantasy games that let you feel like you're going out, building and growing a civilization, trying to conquer everybody around you. And then like you have the whole little thing on the side with the hero running off and doing their quests, which I love because it makes it feel more fantasy. And it's epic and it's long, but it's not boring. Like a lot of long fantasy games are just like you roll a bunch of dice and you wait. This isn't that. It feels more like a Euro where you get to think and do interesting things. So.
And it has the elves in it.
It does. It has your elves, which Battlelord does not.
So, like, right there, it's already good. I mean, they're both great. They're both really great. And I'm going to go with Mare Nostrum here and let the die decide.
The die shall decide. You want to odds again? See if I get another 11.
I'm gonna go with evens this time.
Oh, okay. 20. Nat 20.
There you go.
Yeah, Mare Nostrum.
Mare Nostrum is next
does
round.
it just win the whole thing then?
There you go. It's a natural 20. It wins everything.
Yeah. All right. Last matchup here. Another one of your favorites.
Yes.
I know, Small World.
And one of your favorites, Tapestry.
Yeah, that's a game.
That is a game.
I threw it here in fantasy, and then I was like, what are the fantastical elements here? I'm like, I don't know if there are any, really. It's just like, they made up some civilizations. They have some asymmetrical abilities, but it's pretty abstract.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of the game is you have these different tracks that you're trying to race up for your civilization. And yet, again, the technologies don't have to connect necessarily. So you could be really low on one track and high on another, because it's really hard to do all four, I think it is, if I remember correctly.
Unless you break the game and do that. I don't know. I played it twice and got almost to the end of all four tracks. And that's when I was like, I don't like this game very much.
It's a little odd, to say the least. Small World is, again, and we should mention so many of these civilization games that we're talking about throughout, historical, micro, fantasy, sci-fi, they have a history. They have their own previous editions. So Mare Nostrum, we just talked about here. Small World was called Vinci, which was a more realistic, historic kind of epic on the same thing on the board. And again, Small World takes the fantasy theme, but where really the civilization comes in is you start out on this map. There's already civilizations that have gone into decline, and you can benefit off them or not, or you can attack them, or you benefit off your own powers and your own race-specific powers. And then your own race and powers and civilization will go into decline. And then other races with special powers and such will come up. So Tapestry is very good because it is a very pretty game on the table. Like, there's so many elements to the different buildings. It was one of those first big box games with all the pieces out there. So it does evoke some elements of civilization building and even the space. You have space on the board too. So it certainly does try very hard to get to a civilization kind of theme.
Yeah, it does. And I throw it here in fantasy just because it is kind of abstracted. It could be any civilization, but it's just like an ultra abstracted.
And the buildings and everything don't really make sense in a modern context anyway. No, they're just kind of,
none of that matters. Like, that doesn't affect the enjoyment of the game. It's cool. It's tactile, but I don't know. I think Small World's a lot more interesting, especially if we're talking fantasy.
Yeah, fantasy. I mean, this is a game that's 100% about civilizations, building up, crashing down, and then another one taking its place. So Small World, my friends. Small World.
All right, we did it. So let's run them down real quick, because that's all 32. On the historical side, we've got Through the Ages, Europa Universalis, Nations, Civilization. I'm sorry, Sid Meier's Civilization, the board game. Civilization, Mega Civilization, Imperium, Horizons, Clash of Cultures.
All right.
So those will all face off next week with our friend Geof. Under Micro Civs, we got Zolkin, the Mayan Calendar, Wolves, March of the Ants, Dominant Species, Manhattan Project, Energy Empire, Zimbabwe, Mycelia, and Antiquity. Mm-hmm. For our sci-fi picks, we have Twilight Imperium, 4th edition, Empires of the Void 2, Star Trek Ascendancy, Revive, Underwater Cities, Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy, Andromeda's Edge, Gaia Project. And then for our fantasy bracket, we have Terra Mystica, Dwellings of Eldervale, Northgard, Cyclades, Monumental, Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea, Mare Nostrum Empires, and Small World.
All right, everyone.
There you go.
It's a good list, and next week, the big hitter comes in. Geof is going to help us out and give us the correct answers, so to speak.
Right. Well, we'll have 3 people too, so we have to retire the die.
Oh no!
With the nat,
not the die.
We end on the nat 20 you rolled, so we're good.
I'm going to still claim that means that Mary Nostrum wins the whole bracket, but we'll ask with Geoff what he thinks.
Asterisk.
All right, asterisk. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us this week. Until next time, this is Chris.
And this is Anthony.
And we'll see you all at See at the Table. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Hey there, Hugh from Moderation here. If you like today's show, then why not have a listen to Why We Roll, the dedicated TTRPG design podcast. It's hosted by White and Chris, 2 professional TTRPG designers, and it's all about talking to the people that make our favourite games in the tabletop world and understanding what goes into that decision-making process. How you build something that's not just fun to play, but fun to experience. And we're not talking about how we roll, but learning why exactly we make those decisions. Check it out on our website at podderation.com.